Hello, all of you. I welcome you all to chapter 4, that is Sensing and Perceiving, as and under the course of Basics of Psychology. So, today we are going to learn this chapter in detail. What is sensing and perceiving? The ability to detect and interpret the events that are occurring around us allows us to respond to these stimuli appropriately. In most cases, the system is successful, but as you can see from many examples that it is not perfect. In this chapter, we will discuss the strengths and limitations of these capacities, focusing on both sensation, that is awareness resulting from the stimulation of sense organs, and perception, the organization and interpretation of the sensations. Sensation and perception work seamlessly together to allow us to experience the world through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, but also to combine what we are currently learning from the environment with what we already know about it to make judgments and to choose appropriate behaviors. The study of sensation and perception is exceedingly important for our everyday lives because the knowledge generated by psychologists is used in so many ways to help so many people. Psychologists work closely with mechanical and electrical engineers, with experts in defense and military contractors, and with clinical, health, and sports psychologists to help them apply this knowledge to their everyday practices. The research is used to help us understand and better prepare people to cope with such diverse events such as driving cars, flying planes, creating robots, and managing pain. We will begin the chapter with the focus on the six senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, tasting, and monitoring the body positions. Proprioceptions, we will see that sensation is sometimes relatively direct in the sense that the wide variety of stimuli around us inform and guide our behaviors quickly and accurately, but nevertheless is always the result of at least some interpretation. After we have reviewed the basic processes of sensation through transduction, that is the conversion of stimuli detected by receptor cells to electrical impulses that then transported to the brain. We will turn to the topic of perception, focusing on how the brain's processing of sensory experience can not only help us make quick and accurate judgments, but also mislead us into making perceptual and judgmental errors. What are sensory thresholds? What can we experience? Humans possess powerful sensory capacities that allow us to sense the kaleidoscope of sight, sound, smell, and taste that surround us. Our eyes detect light energy, and our ears pick up sound waves. Our skin senses touch, pressure, hot and cold. Our tongues react to the molecules of the food we eat, and our nose detects scents in the air. The human perceptual system is wired for accuracy, and people are exceedingly good at making use of wide variety of information available to them. In many ways, our senses are quite remarkable. The human eye can detect the equivalent of a single candle flame burning 30 miles away and can distinguish among more than 30,000 or 3 lakh different colors. The human ear can detect sounds as low as 20 Hz vibration per second and as high as 20,000 Hz. It can hear the tick of a clock about 20 feet away in a quiet room. We can taste a teaspoon of sugar dissolved in 2 gallons of water, and we are able to smell 1 drop of perfume diffused in a 3-room apartment. We can feel the wing of a bee on our cheek from 1 centimeter above. Although there is much that we do sense, there is even more than that we do not. Dogs, bats, whales, and some rodents have all much better hearing than we do, and many animals have a far richer sense of smell. Birds are able to see the ultraviolet light we cannot see, and also sense the pull of Earth's magnetic field. Cats have an extremely sensitive and sophisticated sense of touch, and they are able to navigate in complete darkness using whiskers. The fact that different organisms have different sensation is part of their evolutionary adaptation. Each species is adapted to sensing the things that most important to their life, while being blissfully unaware of the things that don't matter. How do we measure sensation? Psychophysics is the branch of psychology that studies the effects of physical stimuli on sensory perceptions and mental states. The field of psychophysics was founded by the German psychologist Gustav Fechner, who was the first to study the relationship between the strength of stimulus and person's ability to detect the stimulus. The absolute threshold of a sensation is defined as the intensity of a stimulus that allows an organism to just barely detect it. On each of the trials, your task is either to indicate yes or no if we were asked on a hearing test. The signals are purposefully made to be very faint, making accurate judgments difficult. The problem for you is that very faint signals create uncertainty. Because our ears are constantly sending background information to the brain, you will sometimes think that you heard a sound when none was there, and you will sometimes fail to detect a sound that is there. Your task is to determine whether the neural activity that you are experiencing is due to the background noise alone or is a result of a signal within the noise. The responses that you give on hearing test can be analyzed using signal detection analysis. What is signal detection analysis? Signal detection analysis is a technique used to determine the ability of the perceiver to separate the true signals from background noise. The analysis of the data from a psychophysics experiment creates two measures. One measure, known as sensitivity, refers to the true ability of the individual to detect the presence or absence of signals. People who have better hearing will have higher sensitivity than will those with poorer hearing. The other measure is response bias, refers to the behavioral tendency to respond yes to the trials, which is independent of sensitivity. Although we have focused to this point on the absolute threshold, a second important criterion concerns the ability to assess differences between stimuli. The difference threshold, or just the noticeable difference, JND, refers to the change in a stimulus that can just barely be detected by the organism. The German physiologist Ernst Weber 1795 to 1878 made an important discovery about the JND, namely that the ability to detect differences depends not so much on the size of the difference but on the size of the difference in relationship to the absolute size of the stimulus. Weber's law maintains that just noticeable difference of stimulus is a constant proportion of the original intensity of the stimulus. As an example, if you have a cup of coffee that has only a very little bit of sugar in it, say 1 teaspoon, adding another teaspoon of sugar will make a big difference in taste. But if you added that same teaspoon to a cup of coffee that already had 5 teaspoons of sugar in it, then you probably wouldn't taste the difference as much as. In fact, according to the Weber's law, you would have to add 5 more teaspoons to make the same difference in taste. Now, a variety of research programs have found that subliminal stimulus can influence our judgments and behavior, at least in the short term. But whether the presentation of the subliminal stimuli can influence the products that we can buy has been more controversial topic in psychology. Although it has been proven to work in some research, subliminal advertising effectiveness is still uncertain. Charles Trappe conducted a meta-analysis in which he combined leading research studies that he had tested the influence of subliminal advertising on consumer choice. The results of this meta-analysis showed that subliminal advertising had a negligible effect on consumer choice. He concluded that marketing should quit giving subliminal advertising the benefit of the doubt, arguing that the influences of subliminal stimuli are usually so weak that they are normally overshadowed by the person's own decision making about the behavior. Taken together, then, the evidence of effectiveness of subliminal advertising is weak, and its effect may be limited to only some people and only some conditions.